Yeah. So, back, got my bird partially dried. I don't ever fully dry it until I get it on the form. But I do have kind of a base dry is what I call it. You do have some fluff in here, but as you can see, those of you that do birds a lot, you can tell that my down isn't fully dry yet. That just helps me sew the bird up a little bit easier. Yes, I do the leg to leg seam. Easier for me that way. So I've got all the holes that I put in it sewed up, and we're ready to go for the mounting process. So first off, what I like to do, this is going to be a standing bird, by the way. I'm going to wire one of the wings because the other wing has no bones in it. So I'm going to free float that wing is what it's called. And this is just a 18 gauge wire. Nice and soft, super pliable. Holds its memory. And all I'm going to do is just run this up into the wrist of the bird up in here. So, like this. Pull this out. Still a little bit of denatured alcohol in there. All that denatured alcohol does is just help you dry the plumage out a lot quicker. It absorbs that water really good. Finish cutting the rest of this meat off here that I missed with the bird flesher. Okay. Run this up, in, and I like to just kind of halfway reinvert the wing until I can find that wire. This wire is tricky to deal with. There we go. Okay, once I get that seated in there really good and tight, take this back here, and I'm going to make a small band right here, straight across the top. I'm going to wrap it once this way, bend this so it's out of my way, take some string, you're going to secure that wire really good. Bend this a little bit more. And all that's going to do is just keep your wire from slipping out of that wrist of the bird. Now, take a little bit of borax. Just kind of help absorb moisture and dry it out a little bit. And then I take some cotton batting. Measure it up. The radial and ulnas. I think that's what they're called. I don't know. I don't put much cotton in there. Basically, I just put it right in between, fill up that void, leave the top and the bottom empty. Your secondary feather is going to go along the bottom here. You don't want any cotton here. You don't want any cotton really much right here. Wrap this up. Next, Take my Dremel. You have a clean bird now, so you want to make sure any marrow, anything like that, that shoots out of there from drilling that hole for your wire is wiped up. You don't want to get that stuff in your plumage because you'll have to start all over. Take this nice soft wire, push it down through. Here we go. Cut this off a little bit. Give it a band. I'm going to finish securing this wire to the bone. Wrap this down. I'm going to rebuild the muscle structure on the humerus. I just put some cotton on here. A lot of guys get fancy with it. Basically, I just tried to make it the shape that the muscle was because it's not round. There's a little bit of muscle that connects this bone into the body of the bird. I kind of ball up here. Nothing too serious. Take it, just wrap it. I wrap this one a little tight just because you don't want it to be too bulky. And when you go to set your bird's wings, it can give you problems if you have too much in there. Basically just making the shape of that bone in the cotton. And then go ahead and tie it off. Reinvert the wing. Nice little pole. Line everything up really good. And then right here, you're just going to make a band in the wire and pretty much just make it look like an M. Okay, on this one, I won't be able to really do wire in this one, but I got to get borax in there. Could do wire, but on a standing bird, I don't rebuild the bones if they're broken. I know some people do their borax a lot different than I do, but this is how I was taught. This is what I do. Works for me. Whatever works for you, do it. Flip it around. Get a big handful. You're going to try to get this down through the neck and then out the head. You can see all the borax right in here. Sometimes you just gotta work it. That skin, when it's really wet, it's really sticky. It sticks to itself quite well, and it makes it kind of hard to get things in and out. So it's another reason why the borax helps you. Slide your neck in, also moth proofing. Sometimes you just got to put your finger in here too. Go from this side. Don't worry about getting borax all over the bird. All that does is just helps you so you don't have a bug problem. That's the main thing about birds. Make sure they're fleshed good, make sure they're washed good, and then make sure you borax them good, however you guys do it. Give it a light dusting and moths won't bother it. Make sure all that meat and all that fat and everything is out of there. Shake that thing down this way. And I'm good to go. But don't want to use that one. Another thing with birds, a trick I learned is, and this is through trial and error, is stuff a piece of paper towel in here. Because that borax, what that does is it dries that skin out now. So I take a piece of paper towel, shove this in here, like so. You want to keep your eye rings just as moist as you can. These are your eye rings. If you don't, then it makes it hard, especially on a wood duck, to stretch it up over your new eye rings that you may have made, like I do, or the eye rings that you order from the supply catalogs. Really just wet this down and it'll dry. It'll be poofy again. This is a good looking bird. He's a good old Utah woody. Wood duck is a lot of fun to do. I've actually done quite a few of them this year. Okay, good to go. Okay, for this, I like to do an extra little step here. Of course, I take the legs off, the feet off. That way I can pose the bird, sit it on its stump, whatever it's going on. Helps me get the anatomy correct. That's very important. So this is a Shane Smith body. Probably one of the best bodies I think I've ever used. So easy. And then this is a Corey Crothers head. Between Shane Smith and Corey Crothers, they know what they're doing. They make awesome products. Make your job a lot easier. Back when I first started, we didn't have nice things like this. So, and I've tried different ways with the head. I've tried gluing the head on first, putting the neck in, things like that. But anymore, I just like to do it this way. Helps me get the cotton in here. Rebuilding that craw is what it's called, what I call it. I've heard it called that. Crop, craw, whatever you want to call it. And really all this is going to help me do is this bird was really fat, and so the skin was stretched out really big time right here in this neck area. It's one thing about a fat bird is they look nice and full. When you flesh them, that skin just opens, just opens up, so it's really, really wide. You have a lot of play, and so you're just trying to get rid of that. Just make it kind of tight. Bend this down. Some people use it, some people don't. And just take some string. Nothing too fancy here. Just want to make sure you get it tight to the neck right here, like so. Keep that basic shape going. You want everything to flow with a bird just as much as you can. This is how I do all of my birds. Okay. And then take this, do a little bend. This is just going to help me push this material through. Okay. So next thing I need to do, I need to mark where I need to put this hole. I pretty much know because I've done it this way for a long time. Like I say, I'm not going to wire the other wing, I'll float it in. Okay, here we go. Material going in. This is kind of a tricky spot in the mounting process. I'm going to take this out for a minute. That skin is so thin on a wood duck. It's really easy to just punch that wire through that skin like I just did. Might have to make this a little bit more. You can just put a taper on it. Really is all you gotta do. And that'll help it slide in there. And then it'll marry up as well. You won't even notice it. We can get this wire in here fine. This neck material is just maybe a little bit bigger than what I want, but I'll get it to work. Usually it slides right in there. Of course, I'm videoing now too, so everything's got to be harder. Alright, there's a wire there. You just gently work that down. Don't want to be too rough on the little guy. There we go. That's better. That's what we want. Okay. Take this soft wire. You have to be really careful with it. When you go to cinch this down to the body, you don't want to like yard on it too hard. I'm a hillbilly, I know. It's all good. Set the ball of that wing joint right inside that hole. Okay, taxi all that skin up in here. Straighten this out, then we're gonna cut it. So, sometimes you gotta make a little poke in here for that soft wire. Okay. Oh, yeah. These bodies are tough. it. This around. Make sure it lines up. Bend that wing. Take this around. I'm gonna pull this out just a hair so I can get that skin stretched around that leg. Okay, everything kind of lined up. Worked out here. Flick him over on his belly. Really all I'm doing is trying to find where I pulled that, it's a tailbone out. Little hole back there that when you get the oil gland and everything out, it lines up perfectly for your feathers, your tail feather. You just take that, find where that bone came out and push this wire through, like so. And then I have a hole in the butt of the bird body that I'm going to push this wire into. Maybe. There it is. Shove that in there really good. We're going to leave this wire long because we're going to need it long to tape the tail. Pull these feathers out that are out in the way or got messed up during the drying process. Okay. Very gently. You're just going to taxi this skin around until you can get it up to the legs. Everything has its place. Some tendons I missed. Alright. Fun part. Sorry if I keep blocking the screen, but you know, sometimes you got to. A bit of good old crazy glue. Now I'm just going to find the edge of that skin that wraps around the foot here. And I'm just going to take some glue, just dab it here. There's a little shape there. You do it enough this way, you'll figure out the shape that I'm talking about. Stick this on here. And you just push this on and around. And you don't have to worry if it's like not super perfect. It covers up. That is one good thing about birds. The mistakes that we make, we do them, we can cover them up with feathers. Unlike with deer or elk or antelope or things like that. Once you lose that hair, you can't cover it up. Same thing here. Working here. Okay. Did a little better on this side, skinning it out. That other side, the leg bone was busted right down there to that joint. Just a little bit of glue is all you need. Okay, this, just gonna set that on there. Wrap it all the way around best you can. There you go. Now, got this all ski-wampus here. We're gonna put our paper towel back in here. It's gonna be a minute before we get to the head. long as that stays moist, my eye rings are moist. You want your upper and your lower mandibles and side mandibles to be nice and moist for when you go to glue that head on. And I'll even just spray it a little bit more here. You know, as a taxidermist, especially doing birds, you really love those birds that are harvested late season. Reason why is because they're fully plumed out. Their plumage is really good. They don't have young pin feathers in them. But the downfall is getting a late season bird, they have a lot of fat on them, and so that skin really stretches. So I've learned to use siliconized caulk. This dries clear. You don't want to use it really as a filler to a certain point. Once you start pumping lots and lots of caulk in there, it can distort your shape. Basically, you're just using this as like a hide paste if you would for like a deer or an elk. And I just push this in here and make just little lines. Get that all the way up to the top of it, right to where that neck juncture is. And these NanoJect syringes are awesome for this. And you know, you get some in the feathers. Don't panic, just leave it alone, let the stuff dry, and it'll rub right out. Okay, I don't take it all the way to the seam just yet because I'm still going to be moving that around a lot. That'll also help you avoid getting caulk in there as well. Man. Okay, here we go. Put some right here in its rear of the bird. And I'm just putting this on the part of the form that's facing us. I don't put it down on the back. I do it down to the sides. Get it on the legs. Okay. Get some right here on the tail. Right here on this part of the bird. This will kind of help hold that skin too while you're sewing it. If you ever sew up bird skin, try sewing up a wet piece of paper and that's what you have. Had to pull that one. Okay, set this here. Good. Keep everything as forward as you can for right now. Fluff that up really good. I mean, this will all come together once I dry it more too. Now, I just use a single thread. This is spider wire, is what I use. There's a bunch of stuff out there. You can use just regular needle and thread if you want. For me, this is probably the worst part about the whole thing, is the sewing. little bit of silicone here on the down, but that's all right. Grab it here. Okay. Now, it's important when you do this to try to keep as many feathers and down out of that seam when you're sewing it up as possible. Doing it this way is a little bit trickier, just for that reason. Yeah, it's a shorter seam, but you got to be really careful when you're sewing this up, because if you get a lot of feathers and down in there, that seam's not going to hide very well. Kind of the same as your regular traditional incision. Done the traditional incision many times. I don't like it. That's just my preference. Takes a second to get going, but once you get going, I usually do about a ½ inch apart per stitch. Get them feathers out of there as best you can. And if you get feathers in the seam closer to the legs, that's okay, because this stuff's, especially on this bird, the way I posed it, it's going to be tight to the body, so you won't even see it. On some birds, if I'm tearing it, I'll, instead of fighting it, I'll just get that seam and get it close together and pin it up. You gotta remember too, you gotta tuck the skin right in through here also, because you gotta put it back in that void of where that leg is. Okay. Didn't get that glued all the way, but that's all right. We'll keep going. There's a lot more to a bird than what people think that needs to be done. Some people are just like, oh, it's just a bird, come on. No, there's a lot to do on them. Stretch this down. You can see it's starting to come together. Put a couple right in here. There's a big hole. Get those feathers out. There we go. I'm going to block the camera for a bit, so sorry. And when you're moving that skin around, just be really careful, especially with that caulking on there, because it's sticky. Remember, it's just hide paste, really. This guy is fluffy. Sometimes that's why I like to put the skin on the bird and get everything sewed up while the plumage is still wet. It kind of helps you go a little bit quicker. You're not pulling feathers out of your stitchings and things like that. But for this, I wanted to do it this way. Thing keeps breaking on me. Got a bigger bite here. Yep. Wood ducks. Thin skin. Yep, it just keeps tearing on me. So we'll have to do it this way. Bring this down. Gonna have to make a big one here. And we'll go like this again. Sometimes this is just what you have to do. I'm just gonna close this hole up now. As best that we can. See, it tore again on me. And now that's starting to tear, so yeah. Wood ducks. Worse than a mallard, I think. There we go. I think it's gonna be nice to me now. just gonna wrap this here, so. Okay. Same thing, when you pull this tight, you want to make sure you can get all those feathers out of there. Unless you don't want to like yard on it, because it'll pull right through that skin. I'm going to leave that long. Of course, this is the shell side. But we'll figure it out. You look good. All right. Now I just need to finish drying him off. I'll be back.